Previously, on A Son's Revenge. After gaining the support of his friends, Eli sets off to find the remaining pieces of the Star Relic, and after learning of the location of the Ring Relic, they head off to the far north to a monastery where they meet an interesting man named Saga Masaki, who seems to know everything about them, though they've never met him before. Under the monastery, they find a cave where Eli's parents died, and where the ring was said to be. But it wasn't there. This revelation sends Eli into a spiral, where he attacked Scarlet, nearly killing her. In this moment, Eli realized how far he would go to take revenge for his parents' death.
1 week before the events of Chapter 5. The platform was empty as Eli and Nataliya made their way to the train.
It's unfortunate that you won't be able to go with us to the monastery.
Yes, it is a real shame. I can only begin to imagine what kind of knowledge the monks possess, but I'll have to find a time to go there.
I'll let you know if it's worth it.
Thank you.
What will you be doing while we're gone?
Continue doing my normal work. I'll also keep going over your parents' notes and any documents I can get my hands on.
Thank you for doing this.
Not a problem. I'm happy to help one of my students. You ready to go?
Yep.
We should probably board before Jones starts yelling at us to move along. I would recommend that. Jones can become quite cranky at the beginning of an expedition.
So I've heard.
Well, have a good time, and take care of each other. I have a strange feeling that I'll have to do a lot of the carrying. With your brother around, I have no doubt. Goodbye, Miss Tomiko. How many times do I have to tell you to call me Nat? Probably a few more times.
Embracing Nataliya quickly, Astrid grabbed her things and headed onto the train.
Now, Mr. McCain, take care of yourself. Don't forget to note down everything you see and find, even if you don't think it's important.
I know. I will.
Try to keep me updated.
I'll do my best.
Wrapping his arms around Nataliya, they squeezed each other tightly before he ran down the platform, hopping on the train. Steam hissed from the train as it rolled out of the station, leaving Nataliya alone on the platform.
How unfortunate that you could not get away from this place.
A ripple of tingling nerves shot up her back as she felt the Lord Professor join her.
Yes, but I will still be able to help from here.
Indeed. Speaking of which, I have an offer I would like to present you with. How would you like to be my scientific secretary? You would be the chief researcher in the country and have access to more documents than you'll know what to do with.
Chief researcher? This was a dream come true. She could barely contain her excitement. The very thought of all those documents made her legs feel wobbly with joy.
Yes! Oh, it would be my honor!
Believe me, the honor is all mine. I could really use someone with your talents to whip the research department into shape.
Two days before the events of Chapter 5. Rays of red and yellow light slipped through the windows as the sun fell behind the horizon. Fluorescent orange light filled the room as Nataliya flicked the switch. Rubbing her eyes, she peered around her new office with its floor-to-ceiling shelves stacked with neatly organized books. A week had passed since Eli and the others had left the capital, and there had been barely a word from them. Setting a box of folders and journals on her desk, she gazed out over the harbor that stretched below her. Once winter passed, she couldn't wait to fling open all the windows and let the ocean breeze fill the office.
Better get started.
Waltzing her way to a small counter, she began preparing a cup of tea. As the water simmered, she pulled a tin from one of the cupboards and a cup from a rack. She made herself a plate of biscuits and poured her tea before taking a seat at the desk. Removing the lid from the box, Nataliya grabbed a handful of documents and started flipping through them. Expedition of the Northern Territories. expedition of the Molokai Islands, Experiment Boomerang were just a few names in the long list of unsorted documents she'd been poring over in the last week. When she had taken the position as the Chancellor's Secretary of Sciences and Chief Researcher, it gave her the job of cleaning up the mess Mr. Nikolov had made in his time as head of the department. She despised that man and his lack of documentation more than words could describe. Flipping over a folder, the words Amulet of Denali caught her attention. Reading the cover more closely, she found Expedition number 542, opened by Doctors Jason and Amy McCain on June 10th in the year 634 AC, closed by Professor Defoe on April 9th, 644 AC. Examining the contents of the folder further, she found countless reports of files that had been removed from or added to the records room over the course of the expedition. Page after page spelled out every single document, artifact, destination, and person involved in the expedition. Many of the files she recognized from the ones she and Eli had spent the last month going over, but there were several she had never heard of. Most of them reports, dating after the expedition. A few were expedition logs from the explorers. Flipping to the last page, she found these words, compiled by Professor Raymond Jones.
Why, Professor Jones, you are a genius!
Wrapped in her cloak with a folder tucked under her arm, Nataliya made her way along the halls towards the records room. She'd spent all of last night scanning over the remaining folders in the box, but came up empty-handed. The remainder of the documents just referred to other expeditions or experiments that had taken place around the same time. Skipping up the steps, the small door leading to the records room greeted her at the top. Pushing into the room, she made her way to the cutout that was placed on the back wall.
One moment, please.
The gruff bookkeeper appeared, shuffling out from one of the long rows of shelves, carrying a stack of boxes too high for one man to carry alone. A puff of dust shot into the air as he slammed the stack to the floor.
How may I help you, Madam Secretary?
Hoffman, please. You don't have to address me like that.
Unfortunately, I do. Helps keep things organized up in the old noggin. So how may I help you?
I was hoping you could help me find some missing journals from this document log for the McCain's last expedition.
Ah, yes, I know the one. It went all crazy 10 years ago and they ended up dead.
Yes. Well, I noticed that several explorer logs were missing from the stack of documents that Mr. McCain and I received from the Lord Professor.
That's weird. I personally oversaw the extraction of those expedition files when the Chancellor called them up. Nothing should have been missing. Can I have a look at that document's log?
Yes. I made sure to mark the ones I'm looking for.
Passing the folder to the gruff man, he began flipping through it, scanning each line with scrutiny. Walking to a tall cabinet, he looked over the labels before pulling one open. Shuffling through the folders, he carefully removed one from its place. Setting the two open folders on the counter next to each other, he ran his finger down the open folders, stopping at every row she had marked down.
Strange.
What is it?
None of them are in my sorting papers. Everything else matches up, but those aren't in my system.
How is that possible?
Either someone was a stink muck at their job or the files don't exist.
But they are logged as being documents in the archives.
Do you know who compiled this list?
That would be Professor Jones.
Go ask him about it.
He's not here right now.
Then that's all that can be done for now.
It seems so. Thank you anyways.
Always a pleasure.
Grabbing up her folder, Nataliya swept out of the room and down the flight of stairs. As she made her way through the halls of the Capitol building, a question kept pecking at her. If Jones has them, why wouldn't he bring them up? They could be important to figure out what was really going on during the expedition and what led to the McCain's death. The fact that she couldn't ask him right away frustrated her.
Maybe I don't need to ask him.
Pivoting around, she flew down the hall and out into the snow-covered plaza of the university. Crossing the plaza, she pushed against the heavy doors of the Exploration Guild and entered into the octagonal lobby. Nodding to the cranky old receptionist, Nataliya took the hallway on the left and counted down the doors till she came to the door marked Professor Raymond Jones. Columns of dust drifted in the beams of light, sneaking through the curtains. Pacing slowly around the room, she scanned every shelf, noting down anything and everything that looked peculiar.
If I was a secret journal that didn't want to be found, where would I be?
Plopping down in Jones's desk chair, she ran her fingers along the edge of the desk, but felt nothing. Dragging open a drawer, she pushed aside the pens and scraps of paper that filled the compartment. A hollow thud sounded as she smacked her fingertip on the bottom of the drawer. Pulling it out further, she set her finger along the inside of the box. The edge came up to her second knuckle. Placing it along the outside, she measured the depth of the side. It was nearly twice as long. Flinging the contents of the drawer out of her way, she pressed down on the bottom. Prying away the false bottom, she was greeted by faded leather.
You do exist!
Collecting up the 2 journals, she reset the false floor and returned the junk that had occupied the drawer. Clutching the journals under her cloak, she rushed to her office, locking the door behind her. Setting one of the journals to the side, she took the other and flipped open the cover, reading the words, Dr. Amy McCain, Expedition to Locate the Missing Star Relic, open on June 10th in the year 634 AC. Turning over to the next page, she found the first of many entries.
June 15th, 634 AC. Myself and Dr. McCain have gained access to the Cotton Journal and are ecstatic at what we will find.
Nataliya flipped through page after page of entries that painted a picture of the years the McCains spent searching for the lost relic.
August 23rd, 634 AC. Today, we are traveling to the Cotton Estate to follow up on some clues and references I mentioned in my July 5th entry. October 1st, 639 AC. It is a momentous day. One of our excavators discovered a tomb of some kind. When we investigated it, we found the location of the key relic, which we have safely extracted and will begin testing in the next few days. We've sent word to Dr. Jones and Professor Defoe, informing them of our progress.
The mention of both Jones and Defoe startled Nataliya. She was unaware of their involvement in the expedition.
October 12th, 639 AC. After weeks of testing, we finally cracked the code on how the key operates. It seems to have the peculiar ability to tell one the truth. We've named it the Key of Truth, which is quite a fitting name. This discovery is enlarged thanks to Professor Defoe, who figured out the relic's abilities.
The golden rays of sun passed away, changing to silver rays of the moon as Nataliya went through years of entries. A nagging feeling came over as she came closer and closer to the end. Defoe's involvement grew as the years went by, and Amy's entries became less about finding the relic and more about how no one should find the relic.
February 27th. 644 AC. Jason and I have come to the agreement that the relic's powers, if the pieces are united, are too dangerous for one man to hold. Defoe has blandly scoffed at our notion, and we do not trust him. He's become increasingly hostile and threatening, taking every chance he has to undermine our work and steal from our research. Jones, the coward that he can be, agrees with Defoe that if the nation is to survive, the relic must be found. We've asked them what they mean by if the nation is to survive, but all Defoe has said is the oncoming storm. Then again, Defoe has always been one for dramatics.
A queasiness churned in Nataliya's stomach as she saw the 4 friends' relationship slowly sour as the expedition neared its fateful end.
March 31st, 644 AC. Our camp was raided last night. Most of our compatriots have been killed. We don't know who the attackers were. They came out of nowhere. We've been able to escape with the key in the Cotton Journal. Our current destination is a monastery due east of Kaminsk to meet with an old mentor, Saga Masaki. April 2nd, 644 AC. Dr. Jones has joined us, and we've uncovered a passage of starlight. It's like nothing I've ever seen. Streaks of blue, reds, orange, and magenta swirl together with specks of silver light spiraling around the crystal walls. It feels like I'm walking among stars.
The journal flew into the air as Nataliya shot back in fright. Orange rays of sunlight seeped across the sky as the sun rose from behind the distant mountains. Shoving the journal into her drawer, she composed herself.
Who is it?
Ma'am, a telegram has arrived from Professor Jones.
Jumping to her feet, she threw the door open.
May I see it?
The Lord Professor has it and has requested your presence. Said it was urgent, ma'am.
Thank you, I'll be right there.
Locking up her office, she sprinted down the halls, sliding to a halt just outside of Defoe's office. Nodding to the 2 stone-faced guards, she slipped into the elegant office. The Lord Professor sat musing over the telegram that lay face up on his desk.
You've heard from Professor Jones?
We have, and there is some good and bad news. But please, take a seat.
Slipping into the seat, she reached to grab the telegram, stopping mere inches from it.
May I?
Yes, by all means. As you will read, things haven't been going as expected, and Jones has made it clear he wishes to speak to me in person about what their next steps will be.
Dear me, Walter has been injured, and it says here that Eli and Scarlet attacked each other.
So he has said, but at least these injuries haven't come at a waste. They were able to obtain the ring.
It sounds like it was at a great cost.
Indeed, but so is the nature of these things. Now that Jones has requested a meeting, I've instructed him to meet with us at the Cotton Estate during the gala, which we will be leaving for at first light tomorrow.
Understood.
One day following the event of Chapter 5, a special rail line had been constructed many years ago that led straight to the high, glittering golden towers of the Cotton Estate. The house was nestled into the back of a small canyon with its large porches and grand windows overlooking the valley below. The house was split into two sections, spanning across the gap of the valley. A single arched bridge crossed the chasm. On the opposing wall, a single tower rose from low in the valley and twisted up to meet the rest of the manor. Rushing falls back the ornate scene, breaking up the gray bare stone of the high hills. Nataliya stood bouncing on the balls of her feet as she waited for the sound of her train whistle that would announce the arrival of Eli and the others.
Oh, do settle down, Miss Tomiko. They will be here shortly.
My apologies, Chancellor. I'm just anxious to see them.
So am I. From Jones's wording, I suspect he'll be in quite a sour mood.
Snapping her head to look out from the platform, she caught sight of the billowing smoke as the train rounded the corner and came into view. Its hulking metal form chugged along the tracks, screeching to a halt in front of them. As the clouds of steam and smoke drifted through the platform, Nataliya made out the tall form of Eli and Jones's slightly stooped frame as they made their way from the train car. Moving forward, Nataliya wrapped her young student in a quick embrace before holding him back to examine him. Dark crescents sat below his bloodshot eyes. His skin looked as white as smooth quartz, and his shoulders slumped in sharp angles.
You look... tired.
I haven't been sleeping well.
Well, you are here now, and there will be plenty of time for that. Come, you must greet the Chancellor.
Well, if it isn't Mr. McCain come to join us at our nation's greatest celebration.
This is not the time for celebration, Wilfred. At least, not for us.
Ah, yes, I remember what you told me. Where is she?
I'm right here, Father.
Slipping from the shadows of the car, Scarlet stepped forward to meet her father. A bandage wrapped neatly around her arm, and another covering the thin gash across her face. Composed with shoulders back, she stared blankly into the middle distance. Crossing to his daughter, he gently grasped her chin, turning her face to one side, then the other, before laying his hand gently on her shoulder.
I was informed of what happened, and I'm aware that it was all a misunderstanding. But I do have to say, Mr. McCain, you cannot let your emotions guide your actions. It's a dangerous road when they do, and you're lucky it didn't drive you to do something far more horrific. I will do my best to remember that. I know you will. Scarlet, your brother is here, and he wishes to speak to you. He's inside.
With a quick nod, she marched away, disappearing into the grand doors of the manor. Spinning around, Nat found Astrid desperately holding her brother from tumbling down the steps of the train car.
Careful! You may not be dying, but you're not fully healed.
Gripping Walter's arm, Astrid guided her brother down the last few steps onto the platform. Gliding to their sides, Nataliya attached herself to Walter's arm as he made his way across the platform. The brown, fluffy goat trailed behind them, eyeing Walter as he shuffled across the platform.
I must say, Mr. Finley, you are in worse condition than I expected.
I've had worse hangovers.
I have no doubt of that. I will not keep you. I have men waiting to escort you to a suitable room where Mr. Finley can be treated and you can get a well-deserved rest.
Thank you.
It was the least I could do.
Nataliya watched as Astrid wrapped her arm around her brother, guiding him into the halls of the manor.
I understand things have been tense since you found the ring.
Yes, that cave has a way of pitting people against each other.
Yes, it does.
Would we be able to talk in private?
We can. Mr. McCain, Miss Tomiko will take you to your room.
Passing through the arched door of the house, high walls of stone and wood made up the entrance hall. The two men headed off into one of the many doors leading off the main hall. Staff rushed back and forth in a flurry, setting up decorations for the grand feast. Banners emblazoned with the yellow cross and silver star of Toulon hung from the rafters. Garland interlaced with strands of golden ribbon twisted up the banisters of the grand stairs.
What are they setting up for?
For the cotton gala later tonight. They've been setting up for the past week, but I've only been here a few days.
Oh.
A tinge of sadness pricked at Nataliya as she saw how little light or youthful excitement was in her young student.
Follow me, your room's this way.
Walking down the long hall, they passed by a long stretch of windows overlooking the valley. The ground far below them glistened white in the flashes of light. The leafless trees rustled lifelessly in the harsh winds of the mountains. The barren land felt pale, like it had lost all its beauty. Icy rain shredded the landscape, which was darkened by the constant clouds. It all looked as pale and depressing as everyone who had gotten off the train. Making their way up a flight of stairs, they found themselves in a long corridor lined with doors leading off into a variety of rooms. Passing through the door at the far end of the corridor, they climbed up the stairs, rising higher into one of the many towers. Reaching the last step, Nat pushed open the door, revealing a large circular room with 4 oval windows that looked out in the cardinal directions. Spindles of carved black wood twisted together, forming the frame of a large bed set in the center of the room, canopied by black silk drapes.
Here we are.
Shuffling to the bed, Eli collapsed into its silk sheets. Twisting a strand of hair between her fingers, Nataliya fidgeted with what she should do. Flicking the hair out of her face, she crossed the dim room. Sitting with a small ripple in the sheets, Nataliya rested her hand on Eli's, giving it a small squeeze.
Nat, what have I done?
What do you mean?
I nearly killed Scarlet.
Eli, you'd never actually have done it.
But the more I think about it, the more I realize I actually would. I'd kill anyone who got in the way of completing my parents' work. And that scares me.
Eli, I don't believe you would. And maybe you can't see that right now. I read Jones's letter. He said you were in pain, you were angry and confused, so don't take that as a judgment of your character.
My parents always told me that in moments of anger we see our darkest selves.
But they are not our true selves.
How do you know that quote?
My mother used to tell me that, so listen to it, Eli. That wasn't you, so do not blame yourself for it, but do not let the damage you've caused go unmended. If Scarlet is angry with you, apologize. And if there is any enmity between you and the Finleys, fix it.
Astrid doesn't want to talk to me.
How do you know that?
Because she hasn't talked to me since the cave.
Her brother nearly died, and she saw 2 of her friends try to kill each other. Maybe she was just scared.
Not as scared as I am.
Don't be. Just talk to her. Why don't you set up a time to talk? And if it helps, I can pass along a note.
Thank you for everything.
I'm always happy to help out a student.
So you've said.
In the meantime, I found something while you were away.
What did you find?
Expedition logs from your parents. They shed some interesting light on things.
Shed light on what?
On your parents' final days.
Do you have them?
I do. I can go get some and we can take a look at them.
Please do.
I'm going to check in on the others while I grab the journals. So in the meantime, you should rest and then get ready for the gala tonight. You're expected to make an appearance.
Do I have to?
Unfortunately, yes.
Latching the door behind her, she descended the flights of stairs and made her way out and down the twisting hallways leading to Astrid and Walter's rooms. Coming to the thick brown door, she knocked gently before slipping through into the expansive room. Walter lay in a large bed pressed against the far wall. Rabi was curled up next to his side. A healer was leaning over him, peeling away blood-stained bandages. He winced as the cloth separated from his scarred face.
This could be quite uncomfortable.
You can say that again. Just do it quickly.
Pulling away the last scraps of the cloth, the healer swiped his fingers through a thick paste and went to work gently applying it to the gashes that ran down Walter's face. Dark, crusted blood covered the slits that had been dug into his face. One ran down from the left forehead and across the bridge of his nose. Another one ran straight down the right side of his face, completely removing his eye. The last one ran down the side of his head, ending just below the ear. Wiping off the excess paste, the healer reapplied new bandages.
The professor said you were injured, but he didn't tell me what happened.
I got in a fist fight with a bear.
And he won, apparently.
Nah, I almost had him.
You're only alive because Saga gave you the ring.
Scarlet sat on a small counter in the corner of the room with her arm outstretched as another healer stitched the gash that ran along her arm closed. Astrid was nowhere to be seen.
You have the ring?
Yeah, you want to see it?
If I may.
Swinging his arm out from beside him, Walter raised his hand, showing her the simple gold band of the ring. Clutched in the talons of the ring sat a gem that swirled with all the colors of the stars. Specks of white glinted in the murky clouds of orange that mixed with the blues and purples of the stone.
It's beautiful. It's like nothing I have ever imagined.
Don't take it off. It's the only thing keeping Walter alive.
No, it's not.
How fascinating. It looks just like what Dr. Amy described.
Doctor Who now?
Oh, sorry. While you were all gone, I found some old expedition journals from Eli's parents. His mother described a cave that felt like you were walking in the stars. She also said that the ring was inside. Is that what you found at the monastery?
It's exactly what we found. But it wasn't the only thing.
What else did you find?
It was the cave Eli saw his parents get murdered in.
It all makes sense. The last journal entry was April 2nd. You also said someone named Saga gave you the ring?
Yeah, he was a strange man. Seemed to know everything about us and what we were doing.
I'm not surprised. Dr. McCain mentions that they went to meet him and that he was an old mentor of theirs.
That answers the question.
Something isn't adding up. If they died in that cave with the journal, the key, and the ring, why didn't the attacker take them?
I'm not sure, but Saga had the ring and never left the monastery, and the key was sent to Eli, but he didn't get it till a few months ago.
My question is, how did the attacker get to them? The monks don't seem like they would let anyone in.
Definitely not. I feel like we only got in because Saga knew us.
Wait, Jones joined them on April 2nd. Or at least, that's what the entry says, and I found the journals in Jones's office.
He's also the only one who had the key.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
Jones killed them.
No, he'd never do that.
How can you be sure? Eli said that Jones always acted strange when they talked about it, and he was there at the scene of the crime.
No, I've known Jones too long to believe he could do something like this.
But all the evidence points to him.
I won't believe it.
Flying through the halls, Nataliya rushed to Jones's room, bursting through the door without a thought of knocking.
Tell me it isn't true.
Springing from his chair, Jones winced in pain as his tea flew from its cup, splashing all over his trousers.
Good gracious, what is wrong with you?
Tell me it isn't true.
Tell you what isn't true.
Tell me you didn't kill the McCains.
What on earth are you talking about? Heavens, no, I didn't kill them. Where did you get a silly idea like that?
The expedition entries. April 2nd, 644 AC. You were in the cave where the McCains died. You had the key that was meant for Eli, and the only way someone would have gotten through the monastery gates is if one of the monks knew them. So tell me, did you kill them?
Jones's face was on fire with panic as she spat everything she knew at him. Stuttering to get a word out, he set his spilled teacup to the side and took a deep breath.
Yes, I was with them in their final days, but I didn't kill them. Defoe did.
What?
If you've read the journals, you'll undoubtedly know that our relationship with Wilfred had soured. You probably read about how he had this notion that the country needed saving from an oncoming storm. You will have also noticed that he had a strange amount of knowledge on a relic that had been hidden for 100 years by that point.
Yes, I also read how you agreed with them.
A grim smile crossed his face.
The first in a long list of mistakes. My second was believing I knew who Wilfred actually was.
What do you mean?
We'd all been deceived. Me, Jason, Amy, the whole country for that matter.
How were we deceived?
Wilfred Defoe isn't his real name. His real name is Alexander Cotton, son of Joseph Cotton, and he has been searching for the relic since his father died, killing anyone who stood in his way, even those he called friends, even Amy and Jason.
What?
Snapping around, Nataliya froze in terror as she came eye to eye with Scarlet Defoe standing in the doorway.
Scarlet, what did you hear?
A bunch of lies!
Darting from the door, she disappeared into the halls of the manor.
Scarlet, wait! Blessings be taken from us.
How do I know everything you just said is true?
This is how.
Yanking open a drawer on his desk, Jones pulled the glinting silver and golden key of truth from within.
Why do you have that?
Eli gave it to me after the cave. That doesn't matter right now.
Jones tossed the key to Nataliya, and it landed with a cold, hard thud in her hands.
Ask if I'm telling the truth.
Gripping it tight, Nataliya cleared her mind, letting one thought fly through the emptiness.
Is he telling the truth?
Thoughts flooded her mind at what this could mean. None of it made sense. How could Defoe be Joseph Cotton's son?
Do you believe me now?
Yes. If Defoe is the killer, what are we going to do? We've been playing into his hands this entire time. And worst of all, you knew. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you do anything?
Because I was a coward. You have no idea how much power Wilfred has. He's been playing this country like a puppet. And sadly, I've been too terrified of what would happen if I spoke out. It wasn't till now, going back to that place, that I realized this is my one chance of fixing all of my past mistakes.
So what are we going to do?
Leave. And we'll have to leave quickly now that Miss Defoe has heard us.
Why? Do you think she will tell on us?
Maybe not directly, but I have no doubt she'll go looking for answers. So take the key and gather the others. Tell them to meet me on the platform as soon as they can. Talk to no one and avoid being seen. Can you do that?
Yes.
Good. I had hoped to do this in a less hectic manner, but it seems I have no choice. Now go.
Slipping from the room, Nataliya sucked in a deep breath to calm her racing heart. She couldn't believe it. They'd been lied to for years, tricked into helping a murderer. Collecting her thoughts, she dropped the key into her pocket and began to retrace her steps. Each step she wanted to burst into a run and find them all as quickly as she could. But she couldn't. Doing that would draw too much attention. Coming around the bend, she quickened her steps as the Finley's room came into view.
You're back.
It isn't Jones. It's Defoe. And we need to leave. Where's Astrid?
Wait, what now?
Jones didn't kill him. Defoe did. He's been behind everything, and we need to leave. Where's Astrid?
Skunk monkey. I knew there was a reason I never liked him.
Walter, where is Astrid?
She's not here. She hasn't been back since she said something about going to meet with Eli about something.
Blessings, did she say where?
She wrote a note saying something about a bridge at a certain time.
Okay, in the meantime, gather your things and wait for either me or one of the others to come get you. If things seem like they're taking too long, go to the platform.
Will do.
Sprinting down the hall, she darted back and forth, searching for the messy brown hair of Eli. Racing up the stairs, she burst out into the crisp night air and raced to the balcony rail. Raised voices echoed around the canyon walls. Peering down, two shadows shifted across the bridge. Spinning around, Nataliya froze in terror. A man dressed all in black blocked the door. A scarred, crooked nose stuck out from under the mask.
Who are you?
Without a word, he raised his gun. 30 minutes before, the mixed conversations of the crowd roared in his ears. Eli went through the crowd looking for anyone he knew. Fidgeting with his glass, he made his way to stand in one of the many doorways. He couldn't think straight, couldn't focus. He could only think about what Astrid was going to say.
There he is, the young adventurer.
Glancing up, he found Martin Defoe making his way towards him. It was startling how much he looked like a younger version of his father. His scarred, crooked nose was the only feature setting them apart.
Hello.
We haven't been properly introduced. I'm Martin Defoe.
Eli McCain. It's a pleasure to meet you.
The pleasure is all mine. Now, how have you been enjoying the expedition life?
He wasn't. He hated it. He never imagined it would be this painful.
It's all right.
It can be from time to time. Other times it's downright dreadful. There was this one time...
Martin, could I speak to you?
Glancing over their shoulders, they found Scarlet waiting in the shadow of the door.
Yes. What is it?
Her eyes darted to Eli as she shifted from one foot to the other. Her hands were clasped together in uneasy movements. All sense of ease and composure was held by a thin string, ready to fall at a moment's notice.
Could we talk in private?
Very well. I'll talk to you later, Eli.
I look forward to it.
Taking her brother by the arm, she led him from the doorway and down the long hall, disappearing into one of the adjacent rooms. A strange sense of foreboding filled the air as Eli stood alone. The bells chiming broke his concentration, pulling him back to his surroundings. It was sunset. Setting his glass on a nearby table, Eli made his way across the dance hall. Wind whipped through the gap, blowing the waterfall into a mist as it cascaded into the cold, dark depths of the mountain that tempted you to embrace it. Pale light bounced off the flowing falls, filling the air with its wondrous light. The serene view of the moon sent a wave of peace over him, calming the racing nerves that shot off all through his body.
Eli.
The sense of peace shattered as millions of thoughts raced through his mind as to what she was going to say.
How's Walter doing?
Astrid stood at the edge of the bridge, wrapped in shadow.
He's doing all right. The ring has helped lessen the pain.
That's good to hear.
Eli, I need to talk to you about something.
Stepping out of the shadows, the pale light of the moon washed over her. It gazed across her skin, exaggerating all her best features. The light flickered in her eyes, illuminating the raging war of emotions in conflict with each other. His heart skipped a beat as he took all this in, aching at what was to come next.
I think it's best if me and Walter don't continue on.
What do you mean?
Eli, I talked with the Chancellor and got permission for me and Walter to go home.
The last drops of peace disintegrated at her words. An aching guilt welled up, suffocating any feelings he felt. He knew that this was his fault. There was no denying it.
Oh, well, if you think that is for the best, I understand. Tell Walter I said goodbye.
I will.
Crossing to him, Astrid wrapped his hand in hers. Agonizing pain ripped through him. He didn't understand it. He couldn't bear it.
I'm sorry it had to end this way.
I am too.
Pulling his hand away, he clenched his fist closed as he turned back towards the house.
That's it? That's all you're gonna say?
What do you want me to say? I'm sorry? I said that before, and look what happened.
I don't know. I expected more than that.
You made your feelings very clear. You want out of this expedition, so go, leave.
Why won't you just do the right thing?
And what's that? Because I certainly don't know what it is. So tell me, what is the right thing?
Leave with us? Forget this stupid expedition.
I can't abandon my parents' mission, the nation's legacy.
Why not?
Because my parents told me to. They begged me to.
How did they beg you to? Last time I checked, Eli, they aren't here.
In a vision. I was told in a vision.
How can you be sure it was them?
I don't know. I just need to do this.
If that vision was truly your parents, they would have told you to be happy, not throw your life away.
I'll be happy when this is over.
Will there be any of you left when this is over? You've been nothing but miserable since you started this. You're not the sweet guy I met in the streets. You're cruel, angry, confused.
I've always been angry and confused. I've had to live my life alone, with no one to help me, no one to be there for me. My parents loved me, but they were never there. They abandoned me, just like Jones, the rest of my family, and now you. I've always been alone, and I always will be.
You don't have to be alone.
But I am.
Not anymore.
Placing her hand on his shoulder, she turned him to face her. Silver tears glistened in his eyes, blurring her face.
You don't have to be alone anymore. You can be happy.
How can I be happy knowing you've made up your mind to leave?
You're right, I have made up my mind.
Grasping his face in her hands, she brushed away the tears. The warmth of her hands on his skin peeled away the cold emptiness he felt. Leaning in, her breath brushed his skin. Her eyes twinkled in the pale light. Closing his eyes, he embraced the flow of energy as their lips touched. They felt warm and smooth. All his aches fell away. His loneliness washed away in an instant. Wrapping her in his arms, he pulled her closer, never wanting to let go. The warmth he'd once felt so many days ago in that cold hospital room felt like fire burning away his years of pain.
I choose you, so choose me. Let's leave this place, this mission.
His parents' face flashed through his mind. The image of their pride and joy as they asked, no, begged him to complete their work. Opening his eyes, he looked upon Astrid, her skin glowing like the moon, and her hair like the fire of the sun. He remembered the first time he saw her, how she cared for him, a complete stranger, how even after he screwed up, she gave him a second chance, how she was by his side when he learned the dark truth about his parents. He'd done nothing right since he started this vengeful mission. He'd done everything his parents had taught him not to. Why did he have to do it? Surely there was someone else.
You want me to go with you?
Yes, we can go anywhere. We don't have to go back to the capital.
But the mission, the country.
There are plenty of other people who can do it. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for this.
Clutching her hands in his, he drew her close and peered into the crystal snowflake-like eyes. Terror gripped his heart as the explosion of gunfire shattered the quiet night.
Eli?
Following her trembling finger, Eli saw two figures standing on a balcony high above them. One of them stood close to the low railing, stumbling backwards. They hit the rail and flipped over, falling to the stone bridge below. Sprinting across the bridge, Eli slid to the fallen person's side. Rolling over the still form, he fell back in shock.
Nat!
Eli!
Blood gushed from her chest, soaking Eli's hands. Staring up, Eli looked into the cold masked eyes of the second figure just before they disappeared.
Nataliya, no!
Frantically, Astrid fell at Nataliya's side, pressing down on her wound, trying desperately to stem the flowing blood.
Nat, you're going to be alright.
Who did this to you?
Nataliya's weak hand gripped Eli, drawing him close to her. Cold metal pressed into his hand. Looking down, he saw the key pressed into his bloodied hands.
Defoe! It's Defoe! He killed him!
Her hand slipped from Eli's as he watched the light fade from her eyes. She was gone.
No!
Tearing away at her dress, Astrid shoved the cloth into the wound.
Come on! Stay with me, Nat! Come on!
Astrid, she's gone.
No! No! She can't be!
Pulling her close, Eli held Astrid as the tears fell and her body shook in horrid sobs.
No! She can't be!
Jones burst through the door, racing to their sides.
Eli, what's happened?
Jones sputtered in horror as he spotted the lifeless form of Nataliya. Bending down on one knee, he closed her open eyes.
Precious wings, what have I done?
Jones, what's going on? She said Defoe killed them. What did she mean?
I'm sorry, Eli. We've all been deceived.
By who?
Wilfred Defoe.
What?
Eli, he killed your parents. He's the leader of the Black Sands. He's behind everything.
How do you know this?
Nataliya uncovered the truth while you were away. She told me, and I sent her to find you. Dear Lord, this is all my fault.
She didn't deserve this!
I've been working for my parents' killer? Did Scarlet know this? She's Defoe's daughter. Did she know?
I'm not sure, but we can't trust her. We need to leave now.
But he's here. I can end this now.
And be branded a traitor. We're in Defoe's territory. We cannot face him. We need to leave.
But
There are no buts. If Defoe caught Nataliya, he could very well know we're onto him. Go find Walter, grab the journal, then meet me at the platform. I'll go get the train ready, and stay out of sight. Now go!
Jones shoved him towards the door. Eli grabbed Astrid's hand and dragged her away from the still form of their friend.
I won't leave her!
Astrid, we have to go.
No!
Holding her close, Eli tried to calm Astrid's shaking form.
I know. I don't want to either, and I have no idea what's going on. But if what Jones said is true, we have to go.
She didn't deserve this!
I know. If we make it out of here alive, we'll avenge her and my parents. But right now, we need to leave.
Defoe will rue the day he took her life.
He'll rue the day he took his first breath.
Squeezing her tight, Eli stepped back and sprinted off towards the rear of the house, with Astrid following close behind. Pushing a side door open, the two cautiously stepped through, swiveling their heads from side to side.
We're clear. Go get Walter while I get the journal.
What about the key?
I still have it.
Straightening up, Eli strolled into the hall.
Wait!
Taking hold of his collar, Astrid pulled him into a short kiss that sent ripples of energy tearing through him. Pulling back, she looked into his bloodshot eyes that were tinged with grief and anger.
No matter what happens next, we do it together.
Until the end.
With a soft kiss on her forehead, Eli sped down the hall, doing his best to avoid being seen. His heart raced, daring to trip him up. With all his might, he kept his anger subdued. His mind raced as millions of thoughts whipped through his head. Defoe killed his parents, and now Nataliya? He was behind everything, and Eli had walked right into his games, playing right into his hand the entire time. He didn't know what to do. All he could do was trust Jones and get out of here. Swinging around the last corner, he raced along the hall, reaching his door and throwing it open. Swiping up the journal, he glanced around the room one last time, checking to see if he needed anything else. Wait, Martin's crooked nose. The first time Eli had seen him, he didn't have it. Not until Eli gave it to him during the attack on the Capitol. He was the masked man in Defoe's office. He had the gun that killed his parents. There was no doubt in his mind Defoe had killed his parents, and if Martin was on his side, so could Scarlet. Slamming the door, he marched down the hall, slipping off towards the platform. Watching every corner, Eli made his way out onto the platform. Lights flickered dimly as the gusts of wind rustled through the desolate space. Peering over a stack of crates, Eli saw that light flooded out from a number of the train cars that were drawn up next to the platform.
Eli!
Glancing to one side, he caught sight of Astrid's flaming red hair peeking out from one of the large overhead doors leading into a storage space. Waving his hand, Eli watched as Astrid, trailed by the limping form of Walter and the goat, passed from shadow to shadow, making their way towards him. As Walter came closer, Eli had a chance to examine the white bandage wrapped around his head, completely concealing the right side of his face.
You look horrible.
I've had worse hangovers.
Where's the professor?
I don't know.
As steam billowed from the train, Eli could make out the hunched form of Jones slinking from the cloud of steam into the shadow of stacked boxes.
Come quickly. The train is ready to depart. No need for secrecy. Head straight to the train car.
Rising to their feet, they tiptoed from the shadows. Gliding across the open space, Eli felt a strange tingle shoot through his body. It felt like eyes watched them from every nook and cranny. Placing his foot on the steps of the train, all the muscles in his body relaxed. Climbing up the steps, he felt a sharp pain shoot through his back as he was thrown to the ground.
Get down!
Pulling Walter to the ground, Astrid pulled them under the window of the train car.
What is it? Jones, what are you doing here? The party's inside.
Jones went rigid as Defoe's words rang around the platform. Twisting slowly, Jones faced Defoe.
Oh, I just had a thought and was retrieving something from the train car.
Ah, good thinking. Especially if the train is about to depart. Wouldn't want to lose it now, would we? But I do hope this has nothing to do with our earlier conversation.
And what if it does?
If it does, I suggest not doing it. If it is, I'll have to do something I'm not entirely comfortable with.
And what would that be? Put a bullet in my head? First Jason, then Amy, and now Nataliya. I'd have to say, Wilfred, you're making quite a habit of it.
I don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Enough of the lies, Wilfred. I know you too well. The minute you hear a whisper of someone knowing your secret, they disappear.
Whatever are you talking about?
Dang nabbit, Wilfred, drop the act. The game is up.
The game is never up till all the pieces know they are being played.
Your pieces are vividly aware of the game when you drop the body of their dear friend in front of them. So yes, they know they're being used.
If this is the case, I suspect the young McCain boy and his shriveling friends are hiding somewhere around here, listening in, no doubt.
Glancing at each other, a look of concern passed between them.
If he is hiding around here somewhere, then you probably told him that I killed his parents and Miss Tomiko in cold blood. And yes, it is true, and there isn't an ounce of sympathy, pity, or guilt in my heart. It was simply business.
Hatred burned through Eli, clenching his fist. He set to step out from cover, but a firm hand pulled him back.
Don't! This is what he wants!
I have to.
But I think Jones conveniently left out all of the facts. If he did, you'd be at his throat, beating the blessings out of him.
Coming to his feet, Eli crept his way to the door. Peeking around the corner, he spotted Defoe standing proudly, backlit by the lights of the manor.
And why would I be doing that?
Oh, because Jones didn't just uncover my secret with Miss Tomiko. He was a witness to it. He led me right to them, and watched like a coward as I gunned them down. Liar!
Bolting to the door, Eli stared down his mentor, as Jones slowly turned to face him.
Tell me it isn't true.
There you are. Men!
6 men stormed the platform. 4 of them, including Martin, took up position behind the Chancellor, while the other 2 raced to the train engine. Eli didn't care what the men were doing. He only cared about what Jones's next words would be.
Tell him, Jones. Tell him how you listened to his poor mother scream in agony as she watched her beloved husband be gunned down, and how you stood watching as she begged you to help them as a bullet lodged itself in her skull. Tell him how much of a coward you are. Tell me it isn't true.
Tears welled in Jones's eyes, slipping down his face as years of pain and guilt racked his whole body.
It's true.
Rage swallowed Eli, tearing away his very soul. His gut twisted. He wanted to throw up. He couldn't look at him, couldn't think straight. Tears stung his eyes as all thought of remorse left him. He couldn't fathom it. Couldn't believe Jones would have ever betrayed his parents, but as he glared at the frail old man, he saw the truth clearly. Jones was a weak, pathetic man who never stood up for anything.
How could you? They were your friends.
I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Hard lines of pain dug into Jones's face as a single tear fell down his cheek.
Eli, forgive me.
Whirling around, Jones pulled a revolver from his coat, aiming it at Defoe.